Okay, we're recording now. Okay, so good evening, everybody. My name is Ray Anderson. I am chair of the People's Food Co-op Linkage Committee and vice president of the board of directors. Tonight, we're hosting a virtual conversation with Danielle Dix, of the Community Action Network. Danielle is the director of the Creekside Court Community Center and the director of YouthWorks, a paid summer program for teens teaching work skills and career exploration. She is now working to develop an agency-wide after-school program designed specifically for teens. Tonight, Danielle is joining us to tell us more about the work of Community Action Network. Community Action Network is October's recipient for the People's Food Co-op Change for Community. It's a roundup at the register to the nearest dollar, or actually some people decide to round up significantly more than the nearest dollar when they check out as a contribution to nonprofits that benefit the community. Each month, the co-op chooses or has a new recipient, and recipients join by contacting the co-op, and there's an application. Usually, we look over to make sure that the work of the nonprofit is within the community and benefits the community at large. So tonight, I'm going to turn over the presentation to Danielle Dix, who is joining us from Community Action Network. Danielle, take it away.
Thank you. I'm Danielle, and like Ray said, I work for CAN, as we are commonly known, because Community Action Network can be a bit of a mouthful. So at CAN, we are located primarily in Ann Arbor, but we are extending out into greater Washtenaw County. One of our sites is at Brick Elementary, which is in the Lincoln Consolidated School District. So it's kind of the start of us branching out a little bit out of Ann Arbor. And we do have a lot of students that go to specifically the Bryant Community Center that are living in Ypsi that attend school in Ann Arbor and after school program at Bryant. So we've got kind of a mix going on there. So at CAN, we partner with children, youth, and families from under-resourced Washtenaw County neighborhoods to create better futures for themselves and improve the communities in which they live. And like I said, so we're mostly in Ann Arbor, but we are extending a little bit outside of that. And one of our largest sites at the Bryant Community Center does a county-wide food distribution several times a week. So we are really reaching folks from all over Washtenaw County there. At CAN, we have 3 pillars that we have based our service around. The first is educating children and youth, where our goal is to prepare kids to fulfill their academic potential and become successful, self-sufficient adults. Our community centers, especially those in Ann Arbor Housing Commission public housing sites, we work with families and we provide totally free at every site after school programming, a free 6-week educational summer camp. That YouthWorks program that you mentioned for teenagers is also free. but the participants actually get paid to do. And everything is really geared around making sure that kids are having a fun, safe environment in which they can learn. Our second pillar is stabilizing families, with our goal is to assist families in meeting their basic needs so they can create better futures for themselves. And this is really where, that social work aspect comes in, where we are, working on eviction prevention and addressing food security. And, it's October, but now we're thinking about winter and how do families have what they need to stay warm in these Michigan winters. And then our third pillar is building strong communities. And our goal there is to create and maintain clean, safe, and supportive neighborhoods where families can really thrive. And we do a lot, I guess this is all sort of pre-COVID, but we do a lot of community events, really trying to build communities within the geographical community, and making sure that it is a place where they want to live. And just for a little bit of context, about 1/4, 25% of Ann Arbor public school students receive free and reduced lunch. And that is a statistic, again, from before COVID. So that could very well have changed with, parents experiencing unemployment and things like that. But there is a significant need for family support, especially in a city like Ann Arbor, where I think the perception is that everybody is affluent and educated and can provide for themselves. When you look at, this statistic of 1/4 of all public school students being on free and reduced lunch as an indicator, there is something else going on there. Okay, so we have a few locations. The Bryant Community Center, which is one of our largest. High Cone Community Center, which was our first site, and Green Baxter Court. So High Cone and Green Baxter Court are the two public housing communities. We have our North Side office, which is up off Pontiac Trail, where we do all the administrative things. Mitchell Elementary, which has not been operating at the moment because Mitchell Elementary is not operating, in person. And then Brick Elementary, and our newest site, which is not listed on here, where I'm going to be at, is the Creekside Court Community Center, which is a third public housing site that we will have a presence in. Goodness. Okay, so a few of the things which I kind of mentioned a little bit that we do at CAN, we have a really big focus on providing, high quality, free educational programming. And so, and there's a list here, and I'll kind of run through briefly which each of these are. A2 Expeditions is targeted to middle schoolers in the summer, for them to learn how to navigate the city and use public transportation by completing citywide scavenger hunts using public transportation. And then the kids earn points by completing the different scavenger hunt maps, and then typically earn a trip to Cedar Point at the end of the program. Every site operates an after-school program. Again, that looks really different right now. And every site, the way that they're operating after-school program looks very different from site to site. But our traditional after-school program runs from about 4 to 6. And kids spend time, working on their homework, but we spend a lot of time making sure that they're just having time to be kids and have fun. And we really believe in learning through play and learning through art, which is when we come next to Can Art and Design. Can Art and Design creates and provides all of our curriculum for art in our after school program and in our summer camps. And, we have seen kids really, express things that they have not been able to maybe find the words for in art, both good and bad. It's a great expressive tool for kids. And so, for example, last summer, so 2 summers ago now, our summer camp was all about food and how is community built around food, and what is food in different communities, and what does it mean to you, and health, and all of these different aspects of food. And an art project that the kids did was to cut pieces of produce, think apples, when you cut them the fat way. They make a star in the middle, and using them and making stamps and things like that. So connecting art and education together. And so again, educational summer camps, 6 weeks, Monday through Thursday from 10 to 5. So it's really an all-day camp, 4 days a week. We provide 3 meals during the camp. And again, it is all free to every family that participates across all of the sites. We have our Read to Succeed program, where that is where a lot of volunteers come in and partner up with kids and read books, and have kids read books to them, and just to get our kids exposed to more words and more reading and more books. And then finally, we have YouthWorks, which right now is our only targeted programming towards high school age students. And I'm the director of YouthWorks, and that is where teens 14 and older have the opportunity to spend 6 weeks learning basic work skills. So interviews, resumes, how to dress for success, things like that, and do career exploration also. And they have the opportunity to earn a $500 paycheck to learn. I always tell them, how many chances in your life do you get to learn something and get paid to do it? So at CAN, we have a 97% graduation rate for students that participate in our programming, and the average graduation rate, I believe for the state, is 72% for their economic peers. So that is one of those outcomes where we are able to see that we are making a difference in the lives of these families. And our students at CAN attend 8 more days of school per student per year compared to all Ann Arbor Public School students. And so outside of the kids and the educational programming that we provide for them, within that stabilizing families, we really look at, what are people telling us that they need? And a big obstacle to learning for children is being hungry. It's been shown that when you go to school hungry, you are going to have a hard time learning and a hard time retaining information. So food assistance and food security are a big priority for us. And during the pandemic, we served more meals during quarantine. And I don't know exactly off the top of my head, but I believe by May, we had served more meals from March through May than we did in the entire year of 2019. So every site provides at the least some kind of food pantry, and up to the Bryant Community Center, which has 3 large food distributions a week. High Cone and Green Baxter Court, for example, do a food distribution once every other week, and every site is kind of tailored to meet the needs of that community. And we partner with food gatherers to get those groceries that are rescued from Washtenaw County stores to distribute to families. We do our best to provide all kinds of housing and utilities assistance. Thankfully, during the pandemic, there's been a pretty strong wealth of resources to assist families who are struggling to pay their rent or their utilities. That is something that we do all of the time, especially as we first got out of that moratorium on evictions. People were starting to really experience a housing crisis after not working for a few months and seeing their life kind of get turned upside down. And right now we have a national moratorium on evictions, but landlords are able to start the eviction process in court. So in the future, in the very near future, we can very well be seeing that housing crisis kind of resurge. So that is another one of our big priorities when we think about what are some of the best and simplest ways that we can assist our families. We do a lot of medical referrals and referrals to DHHS, and something that can look very different for every family and different every site is just that individual support and advocacy. At High Cone, we've been heavily supporting a family who is trying to, get proper accommodations for a student at school. At every site, we partner with the schools where the children go and make sure, like, hey, if you're not getting your work done or you're not going to school or you need help, like, we know that because we're talking with those teachers and figuring it out what it is that needs to happen and making sure, like, at our after school program, that we can support that student in every way that we can. So for Stabilizing Families, about $1.5 million is the value of food and meals served in our last fiscal year in collaboration with food gatherers. So this is our fiscal year prior to this one that just ended, actually. So it's going to be significantly more since this pandemic has started. But what does still hold true is since 2002, we have had 0 evictions due to non-payment of rent for any family that participates in CAN services across all of our sites. And annually, we serve more than 3,200 individual clients. So within our communities, especially within the Housing Commission sites, those 2 and soon to be 3 have elected resident councils that are made up of residents of those communities that help plan community events and put out notices, and where we get to discuss the concerns, what's going well, what's not going well in the community, and also kind of talk more about how CAN interfaces with the community and really get to hear what do they want from us. Because we never want to be an agency that imposes what we think is correct or right or needed. We are totally driven by the communities that we serve and by what we're being told that they need. We do a lot of holiday and block parties, which again looks so different in 2020 than they have in the past. Even though we're still figuring out how to do everything differently. But in the past, every site hosts a Thanksgiving meal, and where the community can participate in making the dishes for that meal and come just spend time being together. And we always have an art project for kids to do when they come to that meal. We do a holiday meal. Again, community members participate and help make the food to serve, that meal to the entire community. We have actually at HighCone, we have a brand new, like, revamped community garden that is ADA accessible there, especially with the unemployment crisis that was happening during, the thick of quarantine. A lot of families were struggling to get food. I mean, we have all been to grocery stores and saw how empty the shelves were, and that really made us think, how do we improve the infrastructure that we already have? And HighCone is very fortunate to have a community that is invested in its community garden. So we spent a lot of time this summer sort of revamping and making it more accessible than ever. And then, so we have neighborhood education campaigns where we have partnered with the police department. We've partnered with the fire department to just teach kids how to be safe. We've referred a lot of kids to do Safety Town, which is hosted by the police department, and trying to just address a comprehensive list of needs and ways to keep kids and families healthy and well. So as we're coming into the winter and our holiday season, we are still doing our holiday gifts for all of our families that participate in our CAN services. And we distribute about $25,000 worth of gifts to all of these children that we serve throughout these communities. We have resident council elections, which don't occur too often. And throughout a normal year, we see about 30 different kinds of community gatherings at our CAN community centers. And again, we have community gardens at multiple locations, and that one I just talked about at HighCone, like I said, has gotten a really lovely facelift, and kind of thinking about social distancing and COVID-19, how do we keep things safe and accessible? So making the community garden ADA accessible helps us to address that and also address social distancing. So a few websites, if you are interested in learning more about CAN, you can check us out at canwashtenaw.org. We have a Facebook page, so facebook.com/CAN Ann Arbor. We have an Instagram at CAN Ann Arbor. We also have a CAN Art and Design Instagram that we would love everybody to check out. And if anybody wants to support CAN outside of the People's Food Co-op, you can go to canwashtenaw.org/donate.
Well, thank you, Danielle. That's an amazing set of services that your organization provides.
It is a lot.
am incredibly impressed with the range of work and how you connect. So when you're in the community centers, are you reaching out to families, or are they just like know you're there and want to be part of your services? How is that done?
So I'll use High Cone as an example because I am formerly the director at High Cone, and it was actually our first site, and so CAN has existed for just over 30 years now. And so in a place like High Cone, we have 3 decades of good standing and good reputation there. And so there are folks that have lived at High Cone for 15 years. There are folks that have lived at High Cone for just over 1 year. And so word of mouth really goes a long way. So, if we maintain good quality service and are providing to our families, they're going to share that information with new folks who move in. But one thing I loved about High Cone was just how homey it is and how comfortable people are coming into the community center. And again, this is all pre-pandemic, but folks just come in the community center, make a cup of coffee. Sometimes they just want to chat with you, and other times they, need to, assistance applying for food stamps or recertifying for their Medicaid or things like that. And occasionally we'll have someone who is new to the community who might not seek us out right away, and we'll go to them. None of us are shy, and we will go to them and let them know all of the services that we provide, and they're all optional. Absolutely nothing, particularly in these public housing sites, nothing is required for anybody to participate in. And I've had new families there, and didn't even know she had moved in yet, and she came down to the community center day one, and made contact with us. And I think the hardest part about this pandemic for all of us across all of the sites has really been having to tell kids that they can't come inside, or we can't have all of you inside, or just not being able to do the things with the children that we serve because they're so used to just walking into the center and grabbing a snack and plopping down and telling us about their day. And it's been difficult for us to not be able to do that the way that we have in the past. So um we're grateful for every bit of interaction we can get right now.
Yeah, that's that would be hard for such an established situation where you have these kids that are just this is where they come and they hang out, or they you know network with their friends or whatever, and then they can't do that. That's
Mhm.
really a challenge. You have on your slideshow, volunteering for the work that you do. So could you talk about how people could volunteer, and sort of what kind of work that the volunteers do in the centers?
Yeah. Um, so, unfortunately, we had a dip in people wanting to volunteer in the thick of quarantine, and which is totally understandable. When, but that was also when need was the highest, when we were distributing the most meals, and we really needed bodies to help do this work. Um, but right now, what we are really looking for is still folks who can come help distribute food at our food distributions. That is always kind of a labor intensive or like people intensive task. So many hands make light work in that sense. So for the variety of community centers, there's always help needed to distribute folks to who really need it. Um, And I will, kind of touch on what normal looks like too. Um, we always can use volunteers for our after school program, um, who are going to come in and sit down with a kid and help tutor them on their homework or read to succeed, like I mentioned. We want to spend 20 minutes, reading with one, two, or three kids and engaging them with a book. Um, we have also had groups of volunteers come and do projects, kind of like a one-time thing. So community cleanups, we've done lots of those. We've had folks come and rehab the gardens, pull weeds and things like that. But there's always a huge variety of things that we need volunteers for because we are a very diverse agency in the kind of services that we provide. So for anybody who's interested in volunteering, they can send an email to our volunteer coordinator, and her name is Paige. She's wonderful, and I can give you her email if that's helpful to
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and do that?
you. Okay, and I'm gonna stop sharing.
Yeah.
So get to the chat here. Give me just a second. Okay. We just went through an email domain change of like name. So volunteers at canwashington.org.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
I think that's something that I especially would like to spread the word about. Just I know in this time during COVID that getting out in the public really is troubling to a lot of people, but there's a lot of people in the co-op who've reached out to us and asked us, well, could we be helping shop for people? I know that people are really wanting to help other people during this time. So it's nice to have that connection. Could you, if you don't mind, share a little bit about your background and how you got involved with CAN, and just give us a little bit of your history?
Yeah. So I went to Eastern Michigan University, and I thought I was gonna be a teacher, and I wanted to work with kids that way because my mom is a middle school teacher, and that's just kind of I thought where I was going. And I actually ended up getting a degree in sociology with a minor in social work. And after spending many, many years working on my bachelor's degree, I was just ready to work and not be in school. And so I heard about the summer camp associate position for the 6-week summer camp, and was like, yes, this is for me. I get to work with kids. It's educational. It'll be fun. And so I signed up to do that in summer of 2017, and I literally just never left. I did that through the summer. My last semester of college was the fall of 2017. I volunteered at the Bryan Community Center while I finished school. And then I signed up to be an AmeriCorps Vista in February of 2018. And for anybody who doesn't know what the Vista program is, it's kind of like a domestic version of the Peace Corps. You sign up to do 1 year of service at a participating organization somewhere in the country. And the kind of role of the Vista program is to build capacity at that organization, and I actually worked on YouthWorks um, during that year, and about halfway through my Vista year, um, I did an interview to work at Highcone, and here I am 2 years after that. So yeah, it's been quite the experience. And I mean, like a lot of human service jobs, there's no manual. A lot of it is so much you have to learn on the job, because every individual client is an individual and is different from the next, and every family is different, from has their own dynamic. And um you know every individual family has their own complex needs and desires and goals. And the way that you handle those things, and just your knowledge of what is available to assist those families to reach their goals, it takes time to learn. And it really takes practical, kind of hands-on experience to gain that knowledge.
Yeah, there's a lot of social work in what you've just
Yeah.
described.
We have a lot of social workers on staff. We have a lot of people who have degrees in social work and
Yeah,
masters in
yeah,
social work.
amazing. Um, we have a few other people that might have questions. I'll see if there's anybody that has questions other than myself here. Danielle? Um, and I think it's Amanda that's on the line also. Well, okay. Um, let's see, anything else? I mean, you just covered so much of what the group does. It's kind of mind-boggling, actually, to me.
It was mind-boggling when I first started working.
And just like how many people are on the staff? I'm kind of curious about that too.
Gosh, off the top of my head, I think there's about 12 of us, 12 to 15. There's not we're pretty small. I mean, we have our site directors like myself who all of our site directors, we've been working, in person at the community centers through this entire pandemic. So that's another thing too, is we don't get to just close down because you know stuff's hitting the fan. Like, we still had to go to work and make sure that families have access to the tech equipment that they need for school, and that they have access to meals and additional food, and are able to apply for unemployment and just navigate the unemployment system in general, which is complicated
Yeah,
for anybody.
I can appreciate that. That's I've heard many stories about how difficult it has been to connect with unemployment during the pandemic here. Uh,
Mhm.
so offering that assistance, I mean, it's invaluable. And just all the work that you do is so much more important during this time. So I want to thank you for all that you've done, all the work that the Community Action Network has done. I really appreciate the time that you've spent with us tonight, and I'm so happy that the People's Food Co-op has connected with Community Action Network and forged more cooperation within the community here. So thank you, Danielle, and we'll call it an evening now.
Thank you.
Take care.
You too. Bye bye.